All right, so I brought you back to this slide so I could show you what a couple of these conservation farming methods look like. So this right here, strip farming, you can see we have different crops grown in different strips. So you've got like a strip of wheat right here. Farming is not that good, so I'm not sure what this is, and this might be soybeans, and so on and so forth. So we get away from the monoculture or the one produce type of farming, and we start farming many things, going back to the basics pretty much. This looks a lot more like our gardens in our backyard might look, with lots of varieties of things instead of just one big thing. Right here is what we have called contour plowing. So I know I didn't do the best job of explaining it, but it is farming the land or making them go in such a way, the path of the fields, that helps prevent erosion and runoff of your soil. So here you can see, if we would have done a traditional method of farming, it would have gone straight from here to here. But instead, because we've got some hills here, and it looks like a little bit of drainage right here and here, we have farmed in a kind of curvy pattern to help try and prevent and capture some of that soil that might have run off if we had farmed the traditional way. And right here is an example of what we call terracing. Now this is an extreme, but you can see that we planted the rows up. We planted the fields up the hill instead of just neglecting to plant on the hill at all, or planting straight up and down on the hill. So this is much better for preserving the soil. We already talked about threats. We talked about formation a little bit. The last thing we need to talk about is parent material, so the particle size and composition. So depending on what type of rock we are weathering, in order to get our soil particles will depend on how large the particles are. Remember, our largest is gravel, then sand, then silt, then clay. And depending on the particle size depends on the porosity, or how much water is able to move through the soil. We don't want a ton of water to move through the soil. We want it to hold a little bit, but we don't want it to hold so much that it creates a lake. So our sweet spot is typically, it's actually called clay loam, and we're going to investigate that in a second. So that was part one of what you've got to do today. The other part is you need to interpret the soil triangle. This might be the first time you've ever seen anything like this. I'm going to show you how to do this, and then you're going to do the rest on your own and turn them in on your PowerPoint. So the way this works is we've got the three soil types, because technically we don't classify gravel as a soil type. Gravel is more of a rock. So we've got sand, and then silt, and then clay. And each soil sample is a percentage of each of these types of particle. If you know the percentages, you can classify your type of sand or type of soil. So like this is clay, silty clay, silt loam, silty clay loam, loam, sandy loam, and so forth. The sweet spot for soil, or the soil that is best for farming, is right here, called clay loam. So something that's pretty much got a little bit of each of these particle sizes in it. So we're actually going to test this in class, your classmates, and if you'd like to do it on your own, you can. You can get a jam jar, like a jar that had jelly in it, or like a mason jar, or really just a kind of tall cylindrical glass. You're going to put soil in about half of it. Then you're going to fill the rest up with water. You're going to mix your soil around, and then you're going to sit it for like a day on your counter. And what you'll see is that the soil particles will separate based on size. So the top layer will most likely be clay, and then moving down a little bit silt, and then sand. So we're going to try this in class. If you want to do it at home, you're welcome to, and we'll even try to calculate some of our percentages, or try to figure out what type of soil we have at home. So here we've got, so this would happen after. So say I already know my percentages. Now I want to figure out what type of soil I have. If we do the first one right here, if I have 10% sand, so I go over here to the sand part, and then I find 10, and I trace that line, and I've got 10% clay, so now I need to find my 10% clay, and I trace that line. And 90% silt, what type of soil do I have? So my 10 right here, my 10 right here, and 90, I'm going to have about I'm going to be somewhere around here in this silt region for my soil type. If by chance I had a 50% silt and 35% clay and 25 or 15% sand, I would have a silty clay loam. Now I could also do it, once you have two percentages, you don't need the other percent. So I could have 20% silt and let's say 70% clay and 15, it looks like, or 10% sand. Then my soil type is clay. So basically you're tracing the lines. So again, if we go, let's do number 2. If I do 40% sand, I find the 40, and the sand lines are going like this, the silt lines are going like this, and the clay lines are going like this. So if I find my 40% sand, my 40 is right here, so I trace that line, and then I need to figure out where it intersects with 30% clay. So I'm going to keep tracing my 40 all the way up to my 30% clay right here. And we have about 30 to 35% silt. So I learned that this type of soil for number 2 is called clay loam. So you're finding where all of these intersect. You're going to do the other 3 on your own. If you have any questions, email me, but it all has to do with tracing the lines and the percentages. All right, guys, have a great day.